Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi fi kulli lahadatin abada adada ni'amillahi wa dhalihi. Allahumma atina min ladunka rahmah wa 'allimna min ladunka 'ilma. Subhanaka la 'ilma lana إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نوينا التعلم والتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني مشرب السوف الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب السوف الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب السوف الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف ناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا من مقضى الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسد لساني واهدي قلبي وعنك ذلك بأحبابي أبدا وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال إخلاص الصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرة الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. The last lesson, we finished about the conditions of the prayer. Of the conditions of the prayer, we finished up to number 4, which is to remove impurity from the clothes, body, and place of prayer. It is also necessary to pray the obligatory prayer standing up, if one is able to do so. And we mentioned that for as far as you are able to do so. And this is a principle in fiqh, a qaida in fiqh, that you are to do whatever you can do for as far as you are able to do so. Right? So whatever, as Rasulullah said in the hadith, whatever I have commanded you to do, then do of it for as far as you can. Right? So you cannot just leave it and then try and take something that's easier. No, you have to do of it as far as you can. Right? So last week we went into the different situations of people who cannot pray properly, fully. Right, so and that it depends on what kind of injury or what kind of illness they have. Right, so last week we went from the first situation of someone who is unable to stand because of an inside illness. Right, so maybe high fever, too dizzy, right, basically just is unable to get up. unable to get up. Right, so for this person, then they can pray sitting down, facing the qibla from beginning to end. If they are unable to sit, they may lie down. Right, so basically, someone who is overall the entire body is not well. The whole body is not well of this particular individual. And then we spoke about people whose limbs are the problem. So they have a sprain, a sprained ankle, or they have weak joints, that their knees are weak and so on. Right, so difficult. So basically, you must pinpoint what is it that exactly that you cannot do. What is it that exactly that you cannot do? So people who has weak backbone or weak joints, they cannot stand for so long. Or some people, they cannot go down and sujud. Right, there's something wrong, something difficult in their limb to make them go down and sujud. Right, some people, it is because once they sujud, they cannot come back up to stand. Because without much help lah, they need a lot of help to get up, right, after going down to sujud. So all of this we went through. So it's not a one-off, no matter what sickness you have, straight away sit on the chair and then sit on the chair the entire time. No, it is really on the principle, and always keep in mind this principle: do to the best of your ability. So what you can do that is normal in the prayer, that is usual in the prayer, then you must do it. Then what you cannot do, then you do sitting down, or you try another way to perform it. Alright, so that is, I hope that is clear. Okay. Okay, going down to the next. So now we're going into the furud of the prayer, right? So as mentioned earlier on before, right, that whenever you learn any part of this religion, or any act of obedience, you always learn 5 main sections, right, of any act of obedience. Let me write it down here at the side just very quickly. Right, when you learn any act of obedience, right, you will always learn 5 main things, right? So any acts of worship, right, and you must be able to say it out from memory, right? So you will learn the conditions, right? You learn the conditions, you will learn the obligations, right, and then you will learn the nullifiers. And I always repeat this over and over again whenever I teach Fiqh. I'll repeat this over and over again. Right, so that it's easier to memorize. Right, once you have it in your head, it's easier to memorize. Right, and then you will also learn on top of that, right, two additional things. You're going to put it in green. Right, the sunnahs. Right, the sunnahs and the makruh. Okay. Right, so what are the conditions? Conditions are basically states. Right, states of being. Right, so we mentioned, so for example, if you were to recall your wudu, if you recall wudu, right, so wudu, what are the conditions of wudu? There are 8 conditions of wudu plus 2 more for those who are on continuous hadas. Can you name them? Must be able to name them. And what are the 8 conditions of wudu? And the 2 extra for those who are on continuous hadas. What are obligations? Obligations are actions, right? Things that you must do, right, for the act of worship. So for wudu, the obligations are 6, right? You will say 6 actions in wudu that you must do. And then what are the nullifiers? You mentioned before, nullifiers of wudu, you will say there are 4, right? 4 nullifiers of wudu, right? And then sunnahs of wudu, there are plenty. And then makros of wudu are usually the opposite of sunnahs, and there are a bit more. Alright, so usually for the sunnahs and for the makros is without end to the number. It's a lot of sunnahs, a lot of makros, right, that you can do for wudu. So now we are in prayer. So for prayer, right, what are the conditions of prayer? What are the actions of prayer? What are the nullifiers of prayer? Right, so the conditions of prayer, depending on how a person counts them, right, depending on how you count them. But we just finished the conditions. Right, we just finished the conditions. In this book, they counted to be 4, and then they put 2 more after that. they put 1 more after that, which is the standing one, 5. They put 5 conditions of prayer, and they don't, you will notice they don't put in Islam and Tamiz. Why? Because understood. Right, understood. Islam and Tamyiz, understood. Because why? Because wudu requires Islam, someone to have to be a Muslim and to be mumayyiz. And then the prayer condition includes tahara, right? So if you are not mumayyiz, you can't have tahara in the first place. So they leave out Islam and Tamyiz when it comes to counting the conditions for prayer, because it's within the part of when we say you have to be on tahara. You can't be on tahara if you are not a Muslim, nor are you mumayyiz. It's not possible to the entire word tahara from both hadas is one of the conditions of the prayer, already includes in there you have to be a Muslim and you have to be mumayyiz. Because the whole tahara requires for a person to be a Muslim and to be mumayyiz. And so just now, what we just took earlier on for this particular book, they count it differently. Different book count it differently, but they're all the same. They're all the same, right? So so they mentioned 4 and they mentioned one more, correct? About standing in the prayer. They mentioned 5 conditions of prayer. Some books will mention 6, and so on. Right, so obligations of the prayer. These books, I didn't see how they counted it, but I memorized 17. Okay, what I memorized is 17 obligations of the prayer. Right, so later on we'll count see how they because some books they count tumat nina as separate. Some don't count tumat nina as separate. So it's depending on how they count it, right? But they will list it out lah. And you see in the Arabic, they don't actually put numbers to it. they just here they mention this is the that is the tashdidat, right? They mention the obligation. They don't count it. They don't count it. They just talk. They just talk about it, but they don't count it. Right? And then the nullifiers of the prayer are a lot. Right? And depending on which book you learn, you find how they count what are the nullifiers of the prayer. So basically, when you study, and then sunnahs also plenty, and then makros also plenty. Right? So basically when you study, right, when you study any act of worship, you will learn these 5 main things. Okay, and that's how you can compartmentalize your memorization. Right, any act of worship. So now fasting. Right, so fasting, you will memorize 5 main things: the conditions, the obligations, the nullifiers, sunnahs of fasting, and the macros of fasting. You learn zakat. Zakat, same thing also. What are the conditions of zakat? What are the obligations of zakat? What are the nullifiers of zakat? And if there are nullifiers of zakat, there are, and then the sunnahs of zakat and the macros of zakat. You learn about hajj, same thing. You learn about umrah, same thing. Right? So these are our main ibadah. Our main ibadah fall under these, the pillars of Islam. It's our main ibadah. Right? So then basically you structure how you memorize things. And in fiqh, you should memorize, right? Because you don't want to, especially for tahara and salat, right? You don't want to be praying halfway and then something happens, and then you're wondering what is the hukum, right? You don't know what is the hukum, right? And you're thinking, Allah, it's in my notebook. I learned about this before, and it's somewhere in my notebook. But right now you're praying, you cannot go and refer to your notebook. You have to have your fiqh at your fingertips. It has to be at your fingertips, right? So whatever it is, you can, you know exactly what to do, right? There was once my sister, she traveled overseas with a group of Muslims lah, to I think to China or something overseas, and then from overseas she WhatsApp me and then she was like, how to jama'? From after how many days she was overseas, the whole group, not a single person knew how to jama'. And she herself pun tak tahu jama', don't know how to jama' prayers. And how to jama'? When to niat? How to niat? How to qasar? Qasar niat when? So I mean, subhanallah, memorize, especially if you're going to travel, go and learn the fiqh of travel, and memorize it. Memorize when is the niat for jama' taqdim, jama' ta'khir, and then memorize when do you do the most important is the niat, like the niat of taqsir. How do I shorten my prayers? And then memorize, what if I don't have these conditions, what can I do? So all of these things all under bab salat, but not in this book. This book we will not go under the prayer of the traveller. Right? In the next book, Safin Najah, there will be a long discussion on the prayer of a traveller. Okay, so they do it step by step. So you memorize things, right, step by step. Okay, now let me just clear all drawings. Okay. Okay, now. So the first thing they say here, they say here, فروض الصلاة النية وتكبيرة الإحرام مع النية. So the niyat has to happen during the takbiratul ihram. وقراءة الفاتحة بالبسملة وتشديدات الأربعة عشرة وإخراج الضاد من الظاء وليس في الفاتحة ظاء ثم الركوع ويجب أن ينحني بحيث تنال راحتاه ركبتيه. ويطمئن فيه وجوبا حتى تسكن أعضاؤه ثم الاعتدال ويطمئن فيه وجوبا ثم السجود مرتين والجلوس بين السجدتين ويطمئن وجوبا في كل ويفعل باقي الركعات كذلك. Not done yet. والتشهد الأول وقعوده سنة والتشهد الأخير والجلوس فيه فرض والصلاة على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد التشهد وقبل السلام فرض والسلام من الصلاة فرض وأقل السلام السلام عليكم. Okay. وأقل التشهد الواجب التحية لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته سلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد عبده ورسوله. Okay, the last one here. Okay, tamam. Alright, so we just go back up here. Tamam. Alright, so the furud of the salah mean the obligations, the actions that you do, right, for your prayer to be valid. And we have learned this before in Zakhira Musharrafa, right, but not to this much detail. And we're going to go into a bit more detail. With every book, there will be a bit more detail. So the first obligation of the prayer is the intention, and the intention, the place of intention is the heart. And mahalluhu qalb, and niyyah wa mahalluhu qalb, right? The intention and the place of intention is the heart. Okay, I'm going to mention I'm going to compartmentalize the obligations of prayer. Okay, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize the obligations of prayer. So furud of salah, it can be compartmentalized into four parts, right? The arkan or these are all interchangeable terms. Furud, wajibat, arkan, they're all interchangeable. So if you hear me say furud, that means the fard of the prayer. If you hear me say the wajibat, the wajib of the prayer. If you hear me say arkan, the pillars of the prayer. Okay, they're all called integrals, or they called obligations, or pillars. They are interchangeable terms, right, for the prayer. So if you say arkan, furud, wajibat, doesn't matter. They all mean the same thing. Okay, integrals or obligations. You can say obligations. Integrals, obligations. Okay, of the prayer. Okay, they can be grouped into 4 different groups. Right? So the first group is in the heart. Okay, in the heart. And what happens in the heart? Okay, the second group, right, is by meaning only. It's the second group. So and then when I explain it will be clearer, inshallah. By meaning, al-ma'nawiyah, by meaning. The third group is actions. Okay. The second group by meaning. Okay. Now the third one by actions. By actions. Okay. Okay, then the fourth group is 4. Right? By speech. Okay? Speech. Okay? Right, so in Arabic they will say arkanul qalbiyah, in the heart. Arkanul ma'nawiyah, integrals that are by meaning. Arkanul fi'aliyah, rukun or integrals that are by actions. Arkanu qawliyah. Qawliyah meaning by speech. So in the heart, what do we have? We have the intention. So in the heart, what is the rukun that is in the heart? There's only one rukun that's in the heart. It is intentions. Okay, just put it next to it. Just put it next to it. Just put it next to it. Just go back up, go back up, go back up, and go next to it. Yeah, intentions. Okay, so intention is not a rukun by meaning. It's not a rukun by actions, and it's not by speech as well, because speech means the tongue has to move. Okay, so the rukun, what is compulsory here is the intention must have happened in the heart. The heart is the doer of this rukun. The heart is the doer of this rukun. Okay, by meaning is tumanina. Tumanina is by meaning. There is no actions involved. Your heart is not involved. Your tongue is not involved. But it's a meaning. That means you held the position for a moment. That's what tumanina is. By meaning, you held the position for a moment. The other one that is by meaning, there's two by meaning. Tumanina and tartib. Okay, and in order. Tartib or in order. Okay, so tartib put in order. Tumanina put bracket next to it. To hold each position for a moment. To hold each position for a moment. Alright, tartib to be in order. For all the integrals to be in order. Okay, to be in order. Alright, so by actions. Okay, actions here now we have a lot. Alright, so for actions, the first one is to stand. Right, so now we have a lot. Okay, stand during Fatiha. That's the first one. No. Let's see. Stand. So stand is action. Stand during, and then ruku'. Ruku'. And then sujud. Sujud. Okay, then sitting between the two sujuds. Okay. After ruku' i'tidal. After ruku' i'tidal. I'tidal. Okay, then sujud. Sitting between sujud. Sitting during the final at-tahiyah. Sitting during the final at-tahiyah. Okay, so this is our rukuns by actions. Okay, rukuns by speech. Okay, rukun by speech. Alright, which is first thing, reciting Fatiha. Okay, reciting Fatiha. Oh yeah, takbiratul ihram. But I put Fatiha first, I put the ihram. Takbiratul ihram, and then reciting Fatiha. And then the first salams. My writing is all not in order. Okay, I'll rearrange the order. I didn't put them in order. And I put tashahud al-akhir, and I put salawat unto Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I put them all in order. You can put them in order if you want to lah. After Fatiha is you will say tashahud al-awwal is first, then salawat. And tashahud al-akhir is first, and then salawat. Tashahud al-akhir is first. So Fatiha, tashahud al-akhir. And then the first salams. Okay. Can. Alright. So now you can see how they are compartmentalized. Okay. So they're compartmentalized by in the heart. There's only one that's in the heart, which is intention. And then there's in meaning there are two, right? Which is basically tumanina and tartib. And then by actions there are six. Right, 6 by actions. The first standing, ruku', i'tidal, sujud, sitting between two sujuds, and sitting during the final at-tahiyah. Okay, alright. And then the speech you have 5. right, in that way. Okay, so now they're all grouped up. Basically, the whole thing about grouping is that it helps you memorize. It helps you memorize, and also, I'm going to speak about each group and what they mean. Okay, right. So, when it comes to basically when it comes to the what is in the heart, right? It has to be said by the heart. The heart must have said it. In the Shafi'i mazhab, it's not enough that you know it. It is you need to actually say it in your heart. Okay, in the Shafi'i mazhab, in other mazhabs, it is enough to know it. In the Hanafi mazhab, it's enough to know what prayer you are doing. Then you know you're praying Zuhur, that kind of thing. So that for them, it's enough. If you come to the toilet and you begin to wash your hands, you wash your face, you know you're doing wudu. In the Hanafi mazhab, just knowledge of what you're doing is enough as a niyat. For Shafi'i mazhab, no, you actually have to articulate a niyat by the heart, not the tongue, but by the heart. Your heart has to say it. Usalli fard al-zuhri. Your heart must actually say it. Okay, for the Shafi'i mazhab, to make sure that you are not that you have yaqeen in your niyat. Your niyat must have yaqeen. Inshallah, I'll go into that in a while. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. By meaning, there's nothing much to say by meaning, but it's just basically that these rukuns is you understand them by meaning, but they're not things that you actually do. Okay, they're things that you understand them by meaning. They're not things you actually do. Okay, actions are things you actually do, and actions will have, you put bracket there next to it, by actions, Nabila. The by actions bracket next to it. There are arkan. Right? There are arkan for each of these actions. Arkan meaning there are pillars or wajibat. Right? So within the actions there are actually pillars right? Or conditions. Arkan or you say shurut, no, not arkan, shurut. Conditions. There are shurut or conditions for each of these actions. So that, for example, what does it mean stand? Right? When is my standing counted? When is my ruku counted? When is my i'tidal counted? When is my sujud counted? Right? Are there conditions by which my sujud, if I don't fulfill them, my sujud or my i'tidal or is not counted? Yes, they are. Right. So these are called the conditions of each part of or each movement of the prayer, which is important, right? Because then people might not understand that sometimes their ruku' is not sah. It's possible their ruku' can be possibly not valid. No, la hawla wala quwwata illa billah. They've been praying that way all the while, or their sujud not valid. And there are people who don't know that for sujud, right, there are specific conditions for sujud, for your sujud to be valid. Okay, for speech, by speech, put next to it that you must hear yourself. For all these five, you must hear yourself, and every letter that is pronounced, right? Every letter and shadda, right, that is pronounced. Okay, right. So you must be able to hear yourself, every letter and every shadda, because shaddas count as two letters. So if you don't do the shadda, you have missed out on a letter, and that is called rukun qawli. Right? You have to hear yourself. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so now getting into it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. An-niyah. The first one, an-niyah. Right? So for niyat, right, all revision of what we have done from before. Okay. So for intentions, okay, so now revision. What is compulsory for you to say in your intentions? What is compulsory? You remember? What is compulsory for you to say in your intentions? You must say, what are you doing? Correct? You must mention whether it is compulsory. Okay, it's compulsory to say it's compulsory. If you don't say it's compulsory, automatically the action falls as a sunnah. Automatically, the moment you don't say fard, automatically it falls as a sunnah. Alright, so for sunnah actions, if you don't say sunnah, it's okay, it falls as sunnah anyway. Right? But for compulsory actions, if you don't say fard, right, it will fall as a sunnah. Okay, so niyat, you must mention what. First one of what must you say about niyat? You must say, what are you doing? I usalli. Okay, so in this case you say usalli, right? And what are you doing? Put down usalli. Usalli. If you want to say I am praying, right? Or you can say in Malay, saja saya solat how we say in Malay lah I am praying, and then you can say whatever language you want lah you can also, because why whatever language you want, sahaja saya solat, is it aku okay, aku solat, okay. What why any language is permissible? Because you're not saying it out loud in your tongue, you're saying it in your heart, right? So any language you want, you can say, right? And it's not a matter of what is more virtuous, because they're all okay, they're all in the tongue, they're all in the heart. So it's not to say that Arabic is more virtuous than English or than Malay. No, they're actually all the same. They're on the same platform, right? Because it's niat. It's niat. But it's just that for us, we tend to do it in Arabic because I think it's easier. Is it? I don't know whether it's easier or not. But I feel Arabic is easier to memorize. But if you want to say whatever language you want to say lah. It doesn't matter. You can say any language you want to say. There is no. You won't say that one is above the other in virtue, and you won't say that you will not find in the fiqh books that to say in Arabic is sunnah. Nobody will say that. Because it's a niat. So it can be any language you want. Right, so what are you doing? Then the ruling of it, fardiyatihi, right? The ruling, its obligation, right? The ruling of it. Right, you must mention the ruling of it, right? So bracket fard. Okay. I think in English and Malay, so both say fard, right? I mean, I don't think they say I am praying the obligatory prayer, unless you say the obligatory prayer. But you say fardu zuhur lah, easier. I am praying fardu zuhur. Easier. I am praying fardu zuhur. The name of the prayer. The name of it. Okay. Number 3 is the name. These 3 things are compulsory to be said. Okay. Name of prayer. Okay, whether it's zuhur, whether it's asar, whether it's janazah, right? Whether it's and so on. Right. So for example, and it can be rearranged also. It doesn't have to be in this order. It can be rearranged. Right. So for example, I can say usalli salat janazah fardul kifayah lillahi ta'ala. Right. I can say that usalli salat janazah. Right, fardul kifayah lillahi ta'ala. I can say usalli fardu salat al-janazah. Right, lillahi ta'ala. I can put the fard in front. I can say kifayah. I don't want to say kifayah, so can also. Right, Allah knows that whether it's kifayah or not. Right, but fard you must mention. Okay, fard. Right, so because salat janazah is fard. Or you can say usalli salat al-duha. Right, usalli salat al-duha. Masih say sunnah, don't have to, right? If you want to say, you can say usalli sunnat al-duha if you want to, right? Witr, usalli salat al-witr if you want, right? Or you can say usalli sunnat al-witr if you want, right? Usalli sunnah qabliyat al-zuhr, right? If you want, right? Usalli sunnah ba'diyat al-zuhr if you want, right? So it's all it's understood is sunnah. You can say usalli sunnah. Or you say usalli zuhur. If you say usalli zuhur like that, it will automatically count as a sunnah zuhur. You're not doing a fardu zuhur. You say usalli zuhur lillahi ta'ala. You say usalli zuhur arba'a raka'atin ada'an lillahi ta'ala. I'm praying zuhur, and then you fail to say fard. It falls as sunnah. Okay, automatically falls as sunnah. Inshallah. Okay. Sunnah things to say in your niyat. Okay, these are also the first 3 are the wajib things to say in your niyat. The next is the other sunnah things to say in the niyat. Okay, right. So sunnah things to say in the niyat. Usually, you will say number of rak'ats. Right, you will say okay. Before that. What is wajib to say for sunnah prayers? So for wajib prayers, these 3 are wajib to say. For sunnah prayers, okay, for wajib prayers, these 3 are wajib to say. For sunnah prayers, only 2. Right, for sunnah prayers that have a name for them. Right, sunnah prayers that have a name for them. Right, that have a name. Okay, for them. Right, so then only 2 things are compulsory: usalli and the name. Right? What are you doing? And the name of the prayer. Usalli duha. Usalli witr. Usalli and the name. Okay, for sunnah prayers that I have no name for it, and they're called sunnah mutlaq. Right, sunnah mutlaq basically means with no name. Basically means sunnah mutlaq. Basically means sunnah prayers like that. Right? It's like mutlaq meaning there there's no it's not connected to anything whatsoever. So it's not a duha prayer, it's not a witr prayer, it's just that you want to pray. That's all. It's just you want to pray. It's called sunnah mutlaq. Right, so it's not a specific like that you niyat sunnah mutlaq. It's not. Mutlaq means unconditional. Mutlaq means unconditional. So it's a prayer that is unconditional lah. It's an unconditional prayer. Right. So you can just say usolli. There's no name for it. Usolli. Usolli lillahi ta'ala, and you pray. Usolli lillahi ta'ala, and pray. You don't even have to say how many rakats if you don't want to say how many rakats, and so you can pray for as long as you want. So you can pray 2 rakats, and you feel like if you want to pray some more, and pray some more. In a sense, you can pray. You can continue praying without end. Right? So for example, you're there in the masjid, you're waiting for someone to come. Right? You say, okay, usalli lillahi ta'ala. You don't specify number of rakats. You just usalli lillahi ta'ala. You begin praying. You pray 2 rakats. Right? Still nobody is there. You continue praying. You continue praying. You continue praying. You continue praying. You could very well do 10 rakats in one go. And you could very well do that 10 rakats in one go. It's up to you. It's called sunnah mutlaq. It's just that you want to pray. And that's all. This is the kind of prayers that Imam al-Haddad would do. You know, and even Imam Sayyidina Ali and Abidin would do in the night. Whereby they would pray, it was known as Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, he would pray 1,000 rak'ats in the night. Imam al-Haddad in the day, he would pray 200 rak'ats. You're wondering, what prayer is this? Is he doing? It's called sunnah mutlaq. Sunnah mutlaq. He is praying 200 rak'ats because he is grateful for his lessons in the Quran. So you pray 200 rak'ats out of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his Quran lessons. And you can pray how much you want lah. Right? This is the kind of sunnahs whereby it's haram to do during the haram timings. These ones, right? The ones that have no reason behind them, and no specific reason behind them, as opposed to the ones whereby there's a specific reason for them, like duha and witr and ba'diyah and qabliyah and so on. Right? For those you can pray even if it's during the haram timings. Even if it's during haram timings, you can pray. The scholars will say avoid it, avoid doing so, but it's not haram. So like for example, of the haram timings, we'll go into it. Of the haram timings is to pray after subuh. Right? So once you have prayed subuh, you shouldn't be praying after you have prayed subuh. But if you have not prayed your qabliyah for subuh, you can very well pray after subuh. It's no problem. It's no problem at all. So you pray subuh, and you can do your qabliyah after subuh. It's okay. Right? And it's counted as ada'an, not qada'an. It's ada'. It is that you're doing it on time. Okay, so if you woke up and then the jama'ah about to start in your house, your family about to pray subuh, right? You rush and then you go and join the jama'ah, and you should be doing that. You should join the jama'ah. You should prioritize jama'ah. You go and join jama'ah, and then after they finish the subuh, you stand up and pray 2 rak'ats of qabliyah. If it's your habit to do qabliyah, you stand up and pray 2 rak'ats of qabliyah. Can, no problem. No problem. And for me, I tend to do that a lot for zuhur, because my husband likes to the moment azan only pray zuhur, and then all my qabliyah all haven't do. So then I tend to do my zuhur qabliyah after zuhur. So qabliyah and ba'diyah after zuhur. Can, it's up to you. And as for zuhur, there's no haram timing. So for me, I do try to avoid doing it during the haram timing. I do try to avoid. But in the Shafi'i mazhab, it's not haram. In the Shafi'i mazhab, it's not haram to do this kind of prayers in the haram timing. You can do so, especially if you don't do it now, you're going to not do it. If you don't do it now, you're going to not do it. I should do it lah. So usually, if it happens to me, for me, I prefer to do it later during duha as a qada. I will qada the qabliyah, right? Because the duha, there is no haram timing. I tend to push it. Just to stay out of khilaf. There's a khilaf between the madhabs, right? But if you want to do it after subuh, can also, no problem. Right? It's not haram. It's not haram. It's permissible. Okay. Okay. So this is sunnah things to say. Number of rak'ats. Whether to say qada'an or ada'an. Alright. Qada'an or ada'an. Right. So whether you say it's qada or ada, doesn't matter. Right? It's it will fall as whatever is supposed to fall. I remember the story. I think I told the class here before, right? The story of the man. Every single day he woke up at the azan, um, and in the night, every single morning he hears the azan. He wakes up, he prays 2 rakaat subuh, and then he goes back to sleep. So what? And then he's been doing this for 20 years. 20 years been doing this. So one day he woke up at the azan. He prayed 2 rakaat subuh, 2 rakaat subuh, and then he was held up. He couldn't sleep immediately after his subuh. He was held up, and because he was held up, right, he actually stayed up long enough to hear another azan, and there was another azan after that. So then he was wondering, what is this second azan? Why is there 2 azans in the morning? And when he asked around, he found out that the first azan is azan tahajud, and the second azan is azan subuh. So for 20 years, he has been praying subuh at the azan of tahajud. It's not subuh yet. He's been praying subuh not in the timing of subuh. Right, so then, what's the hukum on him? I went through before, kan, is the story. What is his hukum? What's the hukum on this guy? Every single day pray subuh before the time for subuh, because he prays at the azan of tahajjud. What is the hukum on this guy? He is on the condition that it's not wajib to say qada'an or ada'an. It's not wajib to say qada'an or ada'an. So what is his hukum? What should he do now? Masih qada' 20 years of subuh? for this guy who's been praying subuh after the azan of the tahajjud every single day? The answer is, all he has to do is pray subuh on that particular day at its time. That one more subuh only. Why? Because every single day, right, whereby he prayed subuh before the time for subuh, that subuh actually counted as a qada for the previous day's subuh that he missed, without him realizing. He didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he was doing a qada all the while. Right, because he always prayed before subuh. So praying before the prayer timing does not count for that particular prayer time. But he had a subuh that he haven't done yet from the previous day. So every day the subuh that he prayed, like, counts for the previous day subuh. Not for that day subuh, but previous day subuh. So for 20 years, he's been doing qada of subuh every morning without realizing. So now that he has realized what he's been doing, all he has to do is pray one more subuh as well. Pray one more subuh at this time, and then now know there are 2 azans in the morning. Not 1 azan, but 2 azans. That's all. Simple answer. Right? So even though the whole while his niyat was ada'an, it all fell as qada'an because it didn't fulfill the conditions of ada. But it fulfilled the conditions of qada. And so it all fell as qada. And so whether you say qada or you say ada, doesn't matter. Allah will count it as what it's supposed to be counted as. Allah will count it as what it's supposed to be counted as. To say facing the qibla. Facing the qibla. Mustaqbilan lil qibla. Mustaqbilan lil qibla. Facing the qibla. Facing the qibla. To say in your niyat, usalli farda az-zuhri 4 rak'atin ada'an mustaqbilan lil qibla lillahi ta'ala. Right, this is a full niyat, a full sunan niyat lah. Right, to do mustaqbilan lil qibla lillahi ta'ala, Allahu akbar. And then also to say lillahi ta'ala. Lillahi ta'ala. Right, to ensure you're sincerely doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is why, and then on top of that also, if you wanna put in imaman or ma'muman, or jama'atan, okay. Right, so it is only wajib to say imaman for certain prayers. Right, only wajib to say imam for certain prayers, which I will go through, not in this book, in Safinatul Najah. So Najah will go through which prayers is it wajib for you to say imam for the prayer. Wajib, Okay, just because we say it's sunnah to say ma'muman does not mean you leave out saying ma'muman, right? We say it's sunnah in the sense that if you don't say it, your niyat is still valid. Right? It's still valid if you don't say ma'muman. But you don't get the reward of jama'ah lah. Right? So if you fail to say makmuman, your niyat valid, right? But you don't get any pahala of jemaah. Right, so technically, if you want the reward, you say makmuman, right? So it's a part. The thing is placed under sunnah, right? And not a wajib because the niyat is valid without it. But then you count as someone praying by himself lah. Right, that's all. Right, so you need to say makmuman. And also, if you are following a particular imam, you need to say makmuman as soon as possible, right? Because if you're following the imam and then the imam takes pauses, right, or you're waiting for the imam, but technically, if the imam were to ruku' and then you leave your Fatihah halfway, for example, that kind of situation, if you're a makmum, you can do that. If you're not a makmum, you cannot do that. Right, so you should be saying makmuman. Right, so to get the reward of jama'ah. Imaman, if an imam does not niyat imaman, then his niyat is valid, and he does not get the pahala of jama'ah. Right, so he can be the imam, and his prayer is all valid. People can makmum to him, yes, but if he does not say the word imaman, he doesn't get the pahala of jama'ah, no reward of jama'ah. He doesn't get the reward of jama'ah. Right, so he needs to say if he wants to get reward lah. But is his niyat valid without saying imam? Yes, it's valid. It's valid without saying imam. It's valid. The validity is there. But what kind of reward does he get? The reward of someone praying alone. So the one who's doing imam and doing makmum or doing jama'ah, I must quickly say this so you get the reward of it. You get the reward of praying in jama'ah. Okay. For imams, I'll mention in passing lah now. For imam to say imaman is wajib, for example, for Friday prayers, because Friday prayers can only be done in congregation. So the imam must say imaman, right? Or if a prayer is nazar, if it's a vowed prayer, they vow to pray a prayer in congregation, right? Then you must wajib say imaman, right? Or for a prayer that is i'adah. I'adah is a prayer that is repeated, a repeated prayer, right? So repeated prayers are only permissible if they are done in jama'ah, alright? So if you say, for example, you have prayed zuhur, then your husband comes back, right? And you want to pray zuhur again, and it's not a qada, it's not a qada, it's an i'adah. That means I'm repeating my zuhur. You can repeat a prayer that is not a qada, it is a repeat of the prayer that you have prayed, if you're doing it in jama'ah. You are not to repeat a prayer if you're doing it alone. So you can't say, oh, I prayed zuhur, and after you pray zuhur, you said, my zuhur was really badly done zuhur. Right? You was so distracted throughout the zuhur. Can I pray zuhur again? Answer is no. You can pray sunnas. You can pray all the sunnah ba'diyah, qabliyah to cover up for the mistakes in zuhur. But you cannot actually do a repeat of the zuhur, because you have prayed zuhur. You have prayed zuhur, no matter how badly done it was, right? It is sah, it is valid. The zuhur is valid. You cannot pray the zuhur again, right? So but unless there is a jama'ah going on, and this time you prayed not in a jama'ah, or you prayed in a smaller jama'ah, or you prayed in a jama'ah whereby there was no, like a big person in the jama'ah, for example lah. So for example, you prayed in a small jama'ah at home. You went to the masjid. You see, oh, Habib is there. Habib or one big imam or shaykh, whatever, leading the jama'ah is a bigger jama'ah also. Do you pray again? Yes, you pray again. You pray again. I'adah. It's called i'adah. That means I'm repeating my prayer. That kind of prayer can only be done if you're in jama'ah. Okay. So the question: Why is it that we're not allowed to repeat our prayers? Why cannot just, like, for example, I'm not satisfied with my zuhur. I want to pray zuhur again. Not satisfied with my asar. I want to pray asar again. Not satisfied with my maghrib. I want to pray maghrib again. If this was allowed, it would open up a door, right, to a lot of waswasa. Right, so people will end up praying like 5 zuhurs or praying 5, not satisfied. You will never be satisfied. You will think I can do a better job, and then you pray again, and you hayal again. And alamak, hayal again this zuhur. So I daydream again in this zuhur, and then you say, okay, I pray again zuhur. I daydream again, right? I mean, how many of you will be confident that when you are not happy with that previous zuhur, your next zuhur is going to be better? I mean, you won't even be confident about that, right? You'll be like, I will try, but probably it will be the same quality zuhur that I did the previous time round, probably. Right? So Islam doesn't allow for that because it opens the door to waswasa. and then you become obsessed, about it, and then you cannot continue with your life. Right? So what Islam has allowed us to do are sunnahs. So you can do sunnahs to try and patch up for all the mistakes. So the sunnahs are like extra prayers that is taken and then to patch up the wajib. Okay, that's what sunnahs are about. Alright, so there is extra stuff by the side lah. Then you patch up the wajib. Okay. Okay, alhamdulillah. That's all there for today, inshallah. Let's see any questions. My mouse not working. Okay, some questions here. Question. What if you have done a fard, then you feel like it wasn't khushu, So same question, and you think you missed out on a part, but you did your sahwi, and you had not settled, you want to do salat, and can you do it? So the answer to the question here, can you redo your salat? You can only redo it if you're doing it in jama'ah. I can only redo it if you're doing in jama'ah. Basically, regardless of how your heart feels about it, if you have fulfilled all the conditions and the obligations of the prayer, you have fulfilled. It means with yaqeen, you have fulfilled the conditions and the obligations of the prayer. Regardless of your own focus and your own, you missed out, because Sujud Sahwi will be like you missed out some parts, or you're not so sure, and that kind of thing. But as long as you know all the conditions have been met and all the obligations have been done, your prayer is valid. Your prayer is valid, right? So you cannot actually do a repeat, but what you can do is do more sunnahs. Do more sunnahs, or if someone's coming to do jama'ah, then join them lah. Okay. Alright, question here. What if someone is praying fard, then others join him as ma'mum, maybe without tapping or without him realizing what's the hukum? Hukum valid, right? Valid. His prayer is valid, their prayer is valid. They join him without him realizing. What they have done is that they have caused for him to not get the reward of jama'ah. Poor guy, right? So the imam praying by himself, and people come and make saf behind him and follow him. He no clue people are following him. So the tapping is to inform the imam to niyat. The tapping is about that, to inform the imam to niyat. So you tap the imam's shoulder, the imam straight away say imaman. Just say then I am imam. Okay, niyat in your heart, I am imam. Then your reward for jama'ah begins at the point of niyat that I am imam. But if people join them without tapping their shoulder, then the imam like praying by himself, wondering why is people all behind me. Right? Then whether he will realize he's being imam or not. Poor guy, right? Then you are denying him of reward of jama'ah. But his prayer sah. Right, prayer valid. Right, so when we go through the parts of prayer, right, and especially when it comes to jama'ah, lots of jama'ah, it's a matter of valid or not. It's separate from get a reward or not. Okay, there are two separate things. Prayer valid. Get reward or not? That kind of thing. Right, so something for example, like in jama'ah, if someone were to stand by themselves in a saf, right, so they see imam. You see the saf is full of people. There's no space to squeeze into the saf. She stands by herself in the saf behind everybody else, and she begins to pray. Her prayer valid or not? Yes. Get the reward of jama'ah or not? No. No reward of jama'ah. She must have at least two people in the saf. Right? And then you must be a saf. Right? So she's praying by herself in one saf. And if there's on condition there's nobody else there lah. Of course, if you're praying for your husband, you're a one-person saf. you're not who you're gonna pull in, correct? But you're in a masjid situation. In a masjid situation whereby there's a lot of people around, you need to have someone else together with you in the saf for your jama'ah rewards to start counting. Right? Okay. What if I become imam to my girls during Isha, and after that my husband came home and he wants to pray Isha? I can join him as ma'mum. Okay, you're currently praying. Are you currently praying? Is this situation that are you still praying, or finished praying already? Is it still praying or finished praying? Then can. Alright, so finish praying, no problem, because already finished praying. The husband come home, he wants to pray jama'ah. You can be ma'mum to him. There's a hadith of once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying with the companions, And then after they finished praying, one Sahabi came in late, came to the Jama'ah, to the masjid late. And then he looked sad lah because he missed the Jama'ah. So Rasulullah SAW said to the companions, which of you here will give sedekah to his companion, give charity to his companion? And then they said, Ya Rasulullah, how do we give charity to our companion? He said, pray with him. Repeat your prayer with this companion so he gets the reward of Jama'ah. So somebody there will repeat the prayer with the companion. I know in when I was in Tarim, there will be of some of the Habibs, right? The Habaibs, they will go to the mosque for Subuh prayer to get the Jama'ah of Subuh at the masjid. Because it's a big reward in doing that. Then they will come back and they will Jama'ah with their wives. Because the wives at home alone, nobody with her, and they usually have no place for women at the masjid in Tarim. It's only for men. Because the masjid is very small, so only for men. So I know of people who they will go to the masjid, pray subuh there, and then come back and pray with the wife. Or they will pray with the wife at home first, then they will go to the masjid and pray subuh at the masjid. So they pray subuh twice every day. Right? But it's under i'adah, it's under repeating the prayer because to allow for people to get jama'ah. Tamam? Okay. What if the Imam reads Fatihah fast in Rakaat 2, 3 and 4 and Ma'mum not enough time to finish Fatihah? Okay, if Ma'mum is not a masbuk, you're not a masbuk in these Rakaats, it means you've been there from the first Rakaat, for example, then you finish your Fatihah. You must finish your Fatihah. You're only allowed to leave the Fatihah if you are a masbuk in that particular Rakaat. Okay, so if you join in the first Rakaat halfway through and you begin your Fatihah straight away, we went through this before, remember? And the Imam finishes Fatihah, Imam ruku', you can stop your Fatihah and join the Imam, because you are masbuk. But the following Rakaats, you're no longer masbuk because you only masbuk for the first Rakaat. Get it? The following Rakaats, you were there from the very beginning. So if the Imam is too fast, you must still finish your Fatihah. Must. Okay, must finish your Fatihah. Same thing with answer that. Okay. Now in masjid must have 1 meter apart. If the saf is full, should we squeeze anyway and then break all the laws of COVID and possibly annoy someone or solat alone niat makmum in the next saf? Okay, so now in the situation you cannot break the solat. You cannot squeeze in between because it's the law of the country. So you stand in the next saf lah. And then basically what to do? Okay, what to do when I come into a masjid and the saf in front is full and I have no space to go into the saf? And what do? You stand in the second saf, right? You takbir, Allahu Akbar, enter the prayer. You enter the prayer. Then you take 1 step forward and you pull the person in front of you behind to join you. Right, so if you are praying in a saf that is full and you feel someone pulling you from your shoulder, right, follow the pull, don't resist. Like, why are they pulling me? Follow the pull, don't resist. Follow the pull because someone's trying to pull you into saf. If people know how to do that, I don't think many people know how to do this, right, or aware of that you can actually pull someone, but you must takbir first because you cannot pull someone from a saf into a non-saf. So your takbir basically made a saf. Get it? So if you have not takbir yet, you haven't entered the prayer yet, there's no saf. You get it? There is no row in prayer. You must takbir, enter into prayer. So now one person is a saf. You're one saf by yourself. You reach in front and you pull the person in front to join you in your saf. The saf in front will fix up the whole right, for themselves. Right, but the person in front should follow you behind and join you in saf. Right, if they know how to do that lah. Right, and so I don't know how confident in Singapore to do that. Right, are you confident to actually do this to somebody in saf? you pull it in, they resist against you, and you pull and they resist against you. You know what to do when you panic, and you just pray lah. And you use dua, may somebody else will come and join my saf. So the moment someone joins your saf, you get the reward of Jama'ah. Okay. But I know in if in Darul Zahra we will do it because everyone there is a student, so we have learned this hukum. So if you feel someone pulling you, we will move backwards and join the person in saf. Okay, is it okay to solat fardu first after azan? For example, Zuhur, when my daughters come home from school, I can do Zuhur in Jama'ah. Yes, you can. Even though I know they will come back home from 2, or should I wait for them and perform salat later? Okay, up to you. Right, so if you want to pray the prayer early in the time, even though you know later on got jama'ah, so you can do a repeat of the prayer for the jama'ah. Up to you. If you want to wait for the jama'ah, up to you. Right, so like if I know, for example, my husband comes home at 6:15, quite late lah, almost for asar, 6 something. By the time he come home, he wudu everything, dah 6:30. Okay, I'm at home from the whole day. Right, should I pray asar at 4 o'clock at azan, or should I wait for him? Right, of course, to pray in jama'ah is always more virtuous. To pray in jama'ah is always more virtuous. At 4 o'clock, you prepare for asar. You wudu, right, you prepare yourself for asar. So now you're prepared for asar, right, to pray asar. Don't have to wait telekong. You can, but at least you are prepared, right, for asar. If you want to pray asar, pray. Up to you. So then when your husband comes back from his work, you can pray again with him to get jama'ah. But if you're like, okay, I don't want to pray twice, you just said, pray twice, don't wanna. And then so you can basically, we can wait around. And it's more virtuous that you wait around. And you wait for him and you pray together with him. Even though it's late, you are counted as someone who prayed early because you were ready from the beginning of the prayer. So you're counted as someone who's been in prayer because you're waiting for prayer. And so you're counted as if you're praying from the beginning of the prayer to the point where your husband comes home, you get the reward. Okay, but do not pray and then leave him to pray by himself. And then both of you both of you don't get. Let me hold the mouse. Then both of you don't get jama'ah. Right? Then both of you are on a losing end. Okay, if the imam reads Fatihah first rakaat, second rakaat, imam not enough time to reach Fatihah. In this case, we have until the imam reach second sujud to finish our Fatihah, right? Yes, correct. Right, so you have until the imam second sujud. It means you have to finish your Fatihah before the imam finishes that rakaat, right? Or finishes the second sujud. You have until the imam finishes the second sujud for you to finish your Fatihah and catch up with the imam. You must catch up with the imam. Do all the different actions in between. With compartmentalized obligations. This one here. I think it's here. Right? No, it's here. Yes, correct. Okay. So many questions today, inshallah. If you're the only female jama'ah in the masjid, then there is no makruh. There is no makruh to pray by yourself in one saf, because there's no other female jama'ah. Right, so same story as you and your husband. He's praying in front, you're praying behind. You're two safs with two people. There's no makruh there. Okay, because there's nobody else around you. What if the imam rukuk too fast, such that no matter if we must book or not book, you can never catch tumaknina with the imam in rukuk, because by the time we reach rukuk, imam already rising for i'tidal. Then the rakaat is not counted for you with the imam. You must do one more rakaat after the imam salams. Okay, alright. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, today also ended late. So next week we will begin first with the sunnahs of prayer, so we have more time for that, and then we will continue our class. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. الله يرزقنا منافعا وعملا خاصا ومستعين مدلالا الهدى ويسر به غاب النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، وإلى أرواح معلمنا ومشايخنا وذوي الحق علينا، وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير. جزاكم الله خير. السلام.